Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dana Skaggs. She is a psychotherapist and she is empowering those burdened by anxiety. And she has a master's degree in clinical psychology and she is a licensed psychotherapist to add to that. Welcome to the show, Dana.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
You are welcome. You are welcome. You are known as the queen of boundaries. And that's why we'll be talking about, we'll take your help to break down what these boundaries are all about, the benefits of healthy boundaries to understand from you. So straight first question, Dana, is that what are these boundaries? See, I come from a sports background. I know about cricket. In cricket, we have got those boundaries or any other games. What are these boundaries about and how for us?
So boundaries basically is understanding where you stop and someone else starts. Some common boundaries would be doors or the lines on a parking lot that differentiates between your slot and somebody else's slot. If you're in an apartment building, it would be you have your apartment and then your neighbor has his or her apartment. They are different. Their walls are boundaries. These are some very common ways of thinking of boundaries. Skin is also a boundary. So it differentiates between where you stop and someone else begins.
Right, Dana. So why are boundaries important? Why do they matter for us in our day-to-day lives? And how are they healthy for us? It's like, when we have our doors or windows, so we know this is the protected area and no trespassers can come in. But what about people? How do we set healthy boundaries in our life and who are those boundaries for?
Okay, that's a wonderful question, AJ. So we had talked earlier when we were just trying to kind of deal with our technological issues and that kind of stuff. And you had made a comment that sometimes we need to rid ourselves of the toxic people in our life. If we can get rid of toxic people, toxic situations, then things kind of unfold and happen in a functional way as they should. Well, the issue is that some people have trouble saying no to toxic people in their life. Setting a boundary is your right to say yes and your right to say no. And what happens, people get really confused about what they're allowed to say, what they're allowed to do. If you think about boundaries as being twofold, because I see this a lot in my practice. On one hand, think of it in terms of yards. Like you have your yard, and in your yard are your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, which you are responsible for. What is not in your yard are other people's thoughts, other people's feelings, and other people's actions. Those are not your responsibility. They are not in your control. But let me give you an example of how we get really kind of mixed up with this.
Right.
So people, it's very common to have what we call people pleasers, where they are very, very concerned that someone else is not going to be happy with what they're saying or what they're doing. And they're totally wrapped up in making sure the other person is happy. So much so that they might want to say no. Let's say this other person is toxic and they want to say, no, I don't want to go to this place with you. Or no, I do not want you to come over to my house. Or no, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. But they are scared to death that if they say this no to this person is going to get very angry with them, or this person is going to reject them or abandon them or hold a grudge. And so they spend their time doing what I call the eggshell dance, dancing around, trying not to crack any eggshells that this other person has strewn out on the floor to try to make sure that they don't ruffle anybody's feathers. two things that are going wrong with that. One is they're not speaking their words, which they have a responsibility to speak because other people cannot read our mind. If we're upset about something, it's our responsibility to speak it. If we don't, we hold that inside and it becomes a bitter root. It becomes resentment and it builds up inside of us. And we have all this icky feelings toward that other person that sometimes this other person doesn't even know anything about because we have not spoken it. But we're scared to speak it because we think if we speak it, they're going to get really mad. And so that's the other side of the boundary violation there is trying to manage someone else's feelings, trying to take responsibility for how someone else feels. We cannot do that. That is not our responsibility. And so once you learn how to go through life taking responsibility for what's in your own yard and not taking responsibility for what's in someone else's yard, which is their thoughts and their feelings and what they do or do not do, life becomes a whole lot easier and healthier.
Right, right, Dana. But you said sometimes we are all, a man is a social animal, and we got to stay around people. And then, if we forget about the people outside, you also have to live within families and friends, and that is also very important. Now, how do you stay with them? Sometimes because of whatever reasons, your financial position, your situation, maybe in a workplace you can't say no to the boss or to your colleagues who can hamper your career, and that's the job you need a lot. So is setting boundaries conditional upon our, say, financial condition, our social condition, or is it that there is a way that whatever condition we are in, we can still set healthy boundaries in spite of being in the weakest position? Can we do that? Is there a practical way to do that, especially in a workplace, Dana, and also in relationships? Because in relationships, there might be some fault with some people, but overall, the relationship is good, or you want to be in that relationship and you are waiting that things will maybe turn out to be better, because in different cultures it's a very different sort of a thing. But whatever the situation, is there room for negotiation within yourself to make your life better with all the sort of a thing around where you cannot walk out of that situation?
Mm-hmm. Those are excellent questions. And there is always a place to set healthy boundaries. And
Okay.
your life is better when you do. Let me give you some examples. Let's start with family situations. Sometimes these are really delicate, like you're pointing out. Sometimes you're cohabitating. Sometimes you are in a position financially where you are dependent on someone else.
Right.
You have to look at the overall pattern of something. At the end of the day, if you don't feel safe expressing yourself to someone, you don't have to. That's actually a choice. When you're setting boundaries, you recognize that you are choosing. I have the right to say this if I want to, but I know if I do, one, two, three, XYZ is going to happen. And I don't really want to deal with that. But you do have to look at the overall pattern. And we also have the right to what I call emotionally detach.
Okay.
So if someone is not healthy, if we know that we try to express our feelings to them and they are going to criticize us, they are going to yell and scream, they are going to be very disrespectful, then we have the right to emotionally detach. We can be cordial, we can even be kind to someone, but we are not going to share with them those what I call our tender bits, those things inside, those our feelings about things. We're not going to share those. And we have a responsibility for vetting people to decide if they are safe for us to share our inner thoughts and feelings with, or if they are not. And it doesn't, if somebody thinks, well, your family members should be the ones that are supporting you the most. Well, sometimes that is absolutely the case. Sometimes that is not. Sometimes people have family relationships that are very, very rough. And I myself have experienced very rough situation with my own mother. It's hard for people like me that have difficult relationships with our parents or a parent because other people don't understand. People with healthy relationships with their parents do not understand it, especially around Mother's Day and this type of thing. Not everybody has a healthy mother or a healthy father or something like that. We have the right at some point, especially if someone is being abused. Now, like I said, you have to look at the pattern. You might decide that if you're being neglected or you're being abused on some level in a family's dynamic, and you can say, okay, I cannot do this on and on. So then you start making plans. Okay, how do I get out of this? How do I become more independent? How do I set myself up so I'm not having to depend on someone else for a place to live or to pay my bills? And so you begin to set things in motion where that dependence on them decreases. Now, you mentioned work. That is a very good question because sometimes at work, if your boss tells you to do something, you do it. That he's your boss, she's your boss, you do what they say to do. The thing of it is, if you can set healthy boundaries in the rest of your life, then you're going to have enough gas in your tank to
Okay.
be able to do what's asked of you at work. Does this make sense?
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. You have put it nice. So it's important to have enough gas in your life, and actually people who are not gaslighting you, but this sort of a good gas in your system, so that you can go on for the long haul outside in your work life. Now, to understand from you, Dana, is that a lot of people who are who can be the tormentors, those people who people are running away or want to run away from, but are not able to tell them, but they don't realize it many a times, either in relationships, even in workplaces. How can such people uh, introspect and find that they are the actual culprits, and they should be looking at themselves, so that uh, people around them are happy, and also that they are not fully thrown out of their lives before it's too late. So do people realize it themselves, or is it that only a strong sort of a situation can make people realize that they are actually the tormentors, the toxic people, the one who are trespassing into people's emotions and not giving them the due, whether it's in personal life or in workplaces? How do you look at that? How can they look at themselves and make it a better place around them?
Okay. So, what you're talking about is kind of looking in your own yard and taking responsibility for what belongs to you. I strongly suggest people to do that and not judge yourself.
Okay.
Don't judge yourself, but observe your behavior. You have to be able to look at it clearly and to say, okay, if, for example, if I am yelling at someone, if I am cussing at someone, if I am calling people names, then that is my behavior. That is not healthy. That is not respectful. Then I need to own that. And I can say, I'm doing that. And I think I would like to stop doing that. Now, having said that, how other people feel, you mentioned people around you being happy. The people around you, however they're feeling, is not your responsibility. You can't control that. But what I'm hearing you also say is there's some situations where there's someone who is causing a lot of turmoil and
Right.
they don't see themselves. They're always blaming everybody else. They're never the ones. It's always everybody else. Again, you can just look at you look at what you can do. You have a situation where people become enablers,
Okay.
or the word is codependent. And what that means is they do not call out someone else for their actions. They allow it and they make excuses for it, or they ignore it. That is helping that other person, the tormentor, the one who is not being respectful, it's helping them to continue to do that because nobody ever calls them on it. We can call somebody on something, we can call them out without being loud. We do not have to be confrontational. We can be very soft spoken. We can be very kind, but speak our words. Say, the other day you spoke to me and you used very loud language and you called me names and you were very critical. I don't appreciate that. I like you. I would like to continue to be in a relationship with you. But if you want me to be continuing with you in a relationship, then I would like for you to speak to me in a respectful way. You say the words and you say them nicely and you say them kindly. Now, they may listen. They may say, "Oh gosh, I didn't realize. I'm so glad you pointed that out. I really hadn't thought about it. I will change." Or they may just go, "I don't care what you think. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and I don't care what you think about it." So that's information. So they're telling you that if you're going to continue in a relationship with them, that's exactly what it's going to be like. So boundaries helps you to see what's going on so that you can make that choice.
Right, right, Dana. So, one thing I wanted to understand for the audience is that why do people behave like that? Why don't they take care of uh, how their words will be to the people around them, even in relationships, in families? You talk about your own mother, that oh, you have with her for whatever what they want through their aggressive behavior or say non-understanding behavior of others feelings is there an intention behind it? Do they want to have control over other people? Do they want them to manipulate and get things done for themselves? Why is it so, or is it just that that's their nature?
Um, a lot of people, it's you look at their childhood, the situations that they were exposed to as they were growing up. Some people have become adults and they are very self-absorbed. They are what we call narcissistic.
Okay.
They are just they view other people as tools to get what they want. And so sometimes people are like that and they don't realize it. And then if you point it out, if you say, when you interact with me, you always seem to be focused on what you want. It's all about you. Our relationship seems all about you and what you want and what you want from me. And I don't like that. I don't like it to be that way. You can call people out and again nicely and respectfully. The reason why they're that way, again, it might be because they were treated, maybe they were abused growing up, or maybe they were treated very like they were enabled, like they were entitled, and they were raised up like they were the center of the whole world, and everybody else is supposed to revolve around them. Maybe that's really what they think, and they think, okay, I'm the most important person in the room. Well, you can tell them your impression of them, and you can say, I don't really prefer that. Okay, I want to be in a relationship where we're both equally important, where we can both talk to one another. But if you're going to continue to just focus on yourself always, then I'm not interested in continuing in a close relationship with you. Because to be honest with you, AJ, no matter what we went through growing up, once we get to be an adult, we are responsible for our own behavior.
Absolutely.
So we can't continue to make excuses about, oh, my upbringing was this, or my dad did this, or my mom did that. When we get to be an adult, we have to take responsibility for that. It doesn't mean that they will. So if you're in a relationship with someone who won't take responsibility, you recognize that, speak your words, let them know your impression nicely and respectfully. And if they just say, I don't care what you think, I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to keep doing, then you have to choose at that point. They're letting you know what it's going to be like if you're going to continue to be in a relationship with them.
Right, right, Dana. So, what is the lesson here for parents, especially those who are quite well-to-do and they have children who can get anything from them at any point in time? They don't have any problems, and this leads to perhaps that entitlement mindset. What would you like to tell parents here, like in terms of bringing children, especially when they have all the means of providing all that they want to their children? Are there some do's and don'ts that they can take care of so that their children, when they grow up, they become like normal healthy people who make things happy around them and do not create problems for others, because it's going to be harmful in their own long run. Somebody will call them out, or they might even fall in very very bad times, perhaps against doing something against the law, and that can lead to problems.
That's an excellent question, AJ. So if a parent is listening, maybe that has been financially blessed, they are financially well to do, and they can provide their children with anything and everything. Ask for that parent, ask themselves, how do you want your child to be as an adult? Because you are laying the groundwork for how they will be as an adult. They're going to go out in the world away from you, and they are going to be interacting with other people. What kind of a marriage do you want them to have? Do you want them to have a healthy marriage? Do you want them to go out in life being spoiled and expecting everybody else to do everything for them? Plus, I will say that children, when they're being raised up, even though they might be in a very wealthy family, if they see that they are contributing in some way, there's responsibilities that they have, tasks that they're expected to accomplish, that gives them an opportunity to feel good about themselves, to build their confidence. Because if they don't, when they get older, they're thinking, okay, well, I have all this stuff, but I didn't provide any of it. All of this came from my mom and my dad. What do I have as an individual to provide? Why should I be happy about myself when I didn't do any of this? So as
Right.
parents, it's giving our kids opportunities to be responsible, have tasks that they're expected to do, so you can teach them how to be responsible, how to show up on time, how to interact with people in a respectful way. So they will go out into the world and they will attract those types of people, because I'm telling you, healthy people attract healthy people. But
Right.
the inverse is also true. Dysfunctional people, spoiled, entitled people attract dysfunctional people. So as a parent, you're watching your child get older, but what are you going to do if you don't do anything about it now? And then you're having to watch them in a terrible marriage
Right.
and raising your grandkids not in a good way. You have a chance to change that now by holding them accountable, teaching them, giving them responsibilities to do. Don't hand everything over hand and foot all the time. That's not really the best thing in the end.
Absolutely, Dana. Absolutely. You have uh, given very great perspective on all the questions that I have asked. And I'm sure a lot of people will benefit out of all these tips and things that you have shared. But there is so much to learn from you, Dana. In fact, you are also a podcast host, Phoenix and Flame podcast. So two things. Tell us about more about the podcast so that people can get more insights into these topics which you must be dealing quite often into your podcast. And second, how do people connect with you, know more about it, about you, and also engage with you professionally? You are a licensed psychotherapist. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit by associating with you.
Thank you, AJ. So my podcast, like you said, is called Phoenix and Flame. And it's about pushing through and transforming, even when you feel like a pile of ash. So I do a lot of interviews with people who have gone through some really harsh times, because I'm interested in what was so hard. What was the flame like? What was the fire like for them? And how did they feel like when they felt just like a pile of ash? And then how did they rise? How did they pull themselves out of the ash to become a phoenix and really transform themselves and become just resilient and have grit and success in life? How did they make that happen? For those of us that may still be in ash piles, reaching out to listeners who are in that position. Something else is that the listeners can go to danaskaggs.com, and that is there is a inventory, a quiz they can take about boundaries. Sometimes people don't know they have boundary issues, and so they can take the quiz and find out, and there's feedback on that. There's a lot of free information, little tips and tricks they can do. And I'm also offering courses if they want to take a course that has video modules that I've created with my notes and application questions. I meet with them once a week on Zoom. The group does, where I really help them to apply what they've learned to their individual life situation, so they can really have a life free of these boundary concerns.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit out of whatever you have discussed right now and also what you discuss in your podcast day in and day out. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ, so much.